All right, welcome back to the channel. So Gervonta Davis seems to have made his mind up about what he's going to be doing and what weight division he's fighting in. So he says that after he beats Mario Barrios, he wants the winner of Jose Ramirez versus Josh Taylor to fight for the undisputed championship of 140 pounds. I absolutely love it. And I'm telling you, I think that this would really be not just a catapulting event for Gervonta Davis. I think it would really solidify this guy as one of the best fighters in the world. And if he was able to do this, there would just be no way whatsoever that you could get around acknowledging the greatness of Gervonta Davis, or at very least the just elite status of Gervonta Davis. But let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, love talking about the great talents in boxing, and Gervonta Davis, Gervonta Tank Davis out of the city of Baltimore is without a doubt one of those guys. And in my estimation, he is the third biggest non-heavyweight fighter in all of boxing, right? So you have the heavyweight division, and if everything is right and nobody's playing around and doing goofy stuff, cheating, taking padding out, or having specially designed gloves and all the other nonsense that they do in order to prevent there being one unified heavyweight champion, if there's that, then that's the biggest guy in boxing. So moving away from them, who are the other guys in boxing that would be considered to be a bigger name, a bigger revenue producer, right, is what I mean specifically, than Gervonta Davis? You have Canelo Alvarez and you have Errol Spence Jr., and I think that is about it. Some people might have told a myth at one point in time that it was Gennady Golovkin, but seeing as Gennady Golovkin ain't done anything in a while and he's over on DAZN, I think it's just safe to say Gervonta Davis is the third biggest non-heavyweight in the world, and that would make pretty much that he's the biggest name of anybody in boxing below the 147-pound division. And my friend, that is half of the weight divisions in boxing. So he is not somebody that you should take lightly when you're talking about star status, or you're talking about, nor do I believe when you're actually talking about the level of skill. So, but there has been a lot of questions around Gervonta Davis that were very reasonable questions, right? Like things outside the ring and whether or not he's using the best, making the best decisions in his personal life. That's not the subject of the video. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's a grown man. He can take care of himself. Not interested in that right now. But the legitimate things that people talk about are, the fact that, he was the actual champion one time at 130 pounds, which is the IBF championship. But the WBA, actually, he's a two-time because he actually had 130 pounds. He had the WBA super there too. But the championship that he holds at 135 is not it's a secondary belt. He beat a guy that was coming up, to a guy that was coming up in weight, I do believe, to get the vacant belt for that, or maybe he got it against the Yuriorkis Gamboa. But however he got that vacant, the regular belt, it's just not something that people had a lot of respect for. There's also a lot of, up and coming fighters around that 135 pound weight class that people would love to see him fight. All the way from 130, like Tevin Farmer or Chris Colbert, Vasily Lomachenko, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. There's just a lot of guys over there that people would love to see him fight. So when he announced that he was going to move up to go to fight Mario Barrios, a reasonable question is like, man, what are you doing? Are you just kind of chasing the money and, just trying to go from weight class to weight class and say how many weight divisions you've won in? That kind of spiel, right? Where you confuse, pretty much phony baloney belts with actual accomplishments. So I think that those are the type of criticisms I think that or observations or questions that I think are reasonable to ask of Gervonta Davis and Floyd Mayweather Jr. What I don't think is a reasonable thing to ask is whether or not Gervonta Davis is the real deal and whether or not he is really an exceptional fighter. So when he said, Gervonta Davis says, look, man, this is what I want to do. I want to fight the winner of Taylor Ramirez. That is a big step up because that is an undisputed fight at 140 pounds. And he would be doing it probably in his second fight against guys that are presumably a lot bigger than he is. Now, I don't actually know if they're a lot bigger than him, but I think, because, Gervonta Davis he doesn't have a big frame. He is he's a short guy or a diminutive guy, but he does put on a lot of weight, and he can put on a lot. And he's a very, very strong, very, very fast guy who can fight on the inside and can fight on the outside. So, I just think I would never doubt him in his ability to beat guys at that level, especially, if he might feel that, they are really been draining at that weight or been at that weight for a while, and one or two fights, they, just don't know how long, Jose Ramirez can actually make that weight and how much of a drain it is on him. Same thing for Josh Taylor, who looks pretty much anorexic whenever he fights. Just go look at the pictures of the weigh-in. That said, I think we'll get a lot of the answers to that question when he fights Mario Barrios, who is a solid 140-pound fighter. He's not the top 140-pound fighter by any stretch, right? That title would go to either Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, or Regis Prograis. Personally, I think Regis Prograis can beat Josh Taylor and can beat Jose Ramirez, and I think that if it was not for the fact that Bob Arum on the first tip basically stole the fight and the opportunity to fight Jose Ramirez from Regis Prograis, and the fact that I thought that fight very well over in Scotland could have been a draw, and that fight was over in Scotland. That wasn't him having to come over. That was a backyard fight for Josh Taylor. So regardless, Mario Barrios is a solid fighter. If Gervonta Davis can get past and dominate Mario Barrios, who's at that size, then I say that is a very, very, that's a very, very good fight for Gervonta Davis. And now, I think that is the case because it is, right? There are some criticisms about the actual type of fighter that Gervonta Davis has been fighting, which is pretty much flat-footed come forward fighters. I don't know that there's been anybody pretty much since Jose Pedraza that I would say is somebody that would really spend any amount of time really outboxing with you, right? So that is also kind of the wrap on both Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor. Jose Ramirez has a very, versatile style, but he's a guy that's going to come forward and is going to try to get you out of there. Even if he can fight on the back foot for a while, he's seeking, destroying, coming to get you. Same thing with Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor can switch from southpaw to orthodox. He can fight on the outside, but he's an aggressive guy that is really coming forward to fight, but he doesn't have a tremendous amount of agility, something that Gervonta Davis has plenty of. So if you look at the type of fighters that he's fought, right, and the dominating performances that he's had over smaller fighters in that same basic style, fighting style, I think that it's reasonable to predict that he would do well against Jose Ramirez or Josh Taylor and really has a chance to beat both those guys. And to boot, like I said in the beginning of the video, if he's able to beat these guys, then without a doubt, man, he has to be considered one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. He would be considered definitely the top guy below 147 pounds, and he can answer a lot of critics and, for the criticisms that I described in this video, right? Because if he beats those guys, you can't say that he's beating up on smaller guys. You can't, because now he's beating up on much, much bigger guys. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he does that, without too much trouble, but put it this way. If Gervonta Davis takes that fight, Gervonta Davis is very, very confident that he can get those guys out of there. And if he's confident, hey, man, I'm confident too. Anyway, so that's my take on the matter. You let me know yours. And with that, I'm out. Peace.